The crystalline chamber stretched so far that its walls seemed to disappear into infinity. Giwon Kim stood at the human delegation's podium. Her dark suit pressed perfectly, her hands resting calmly on the smooth surface before her. Around her, 47 different alien species occupied their own platforms, some floating, some standing, some existing in ways that human eyes struggled to comprehend. This was the Galactic Council. And today, Earth had come to ask for something simple. Giwon's voice carried through the translation. A field that made all languages comprehensible to every ear and sensory organ in the chamber. The United Earth Government requests standard military expansion rights as granted to all member species of this council. We have fulfilled every requirement. We have paid our dues. We have honored every treaty. We ask only for what others already possess. The silence that followed felt heavy. Then, from the largest platform reserved for the Verosian Empire, came a sound that the translator rendered as laughter. Dextra, the Verosian representative, was a creature that resembled a mantis made of liquid metal. When he spoke, his voice dripped with amusement. Military expansion rights. For the humans? More laughter rippled through the chamber. Tell me, Ambassador Kim, how many star systems can your people reach with those chemical rockets you're so proud of? Guan felt her jaw tighten, but her face remained calm. We currently maintain presence in 15 systems. 15! This laughter grew louder. My personal fleet patrols more systems than your entire species occupies. And you want military expansion rights? From another platform, a blob-like creature that represented the Quellan Collective added its own mockery. The humans still use combustion engines. Combustion. Like cavemen rubbing sticks together for fire. Perhaps we should give them expansion rights into the asteroid belt of their own system, another voice called out. That seems appropriately scaled to their capabilities. The chamber filled with sounds that the translator could only approximate as laughter, scorn, and derision. Giwon stood perfectly still, her eyes moving slowly across the assembled aliens. Behind her, she could feel Captain Minho Park's presence. He was supposed to be just a military observer, silent and unmoving in his dress uniform, but she knew him well enough to sense the tension radiating from him. High Arbiter Quendel, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline shell, finally raised one glowing appendage for silence. The Council will vote. Those in favor of granting Earth's standard military expansion rights. Not a single platform lit up with approval. Not one. Those opposed. The chamber blazed with light as every single member voted against Earth's request. 47-0, Quendel's voice held something that might have been pity. The motion fails. Furthermore, the Council imposes additional restrictions on Earth's current trade agreements. You will find the details transmitted to your ship. This session is concluded. This extra couldn't resist one final comment. Perhaps in another 1,000 years, when you've graduated from playing with fire, we can revisit this discussion. Until then, children should stay in the nursery where they belong. The laughter that followed hurt worse than the vote itself. Ji-won gathered her documents slowly, deliberately. She would not rush. She would not show them how their words cut. Minho stepped up beside her, his hand briefly touching her elbow in a gesture of support that no alien in this chamber would recognize as they walked toward the exit. Their small delegation following behind, Guan heard the aliens already moving on to other business. Earth's humiliation was already forgotten, just another amusing moment in their long lives. To them, humanity was nothing. A curiosity. A joke. The corridor outside was mercifully empty. Their footsteps echoed on the smooth floor as they made their way back to their shuttle. Guan counted her breaths, keeping them steady. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ambassador Minho said quietly. His voice was carefully controlled, but she heard the rage beneath it. Not yet, she replied. Equally quiet, they reached the shuttle bay where their small Earth vessel waited, dwarfed by the massive alien ships around it. To alien eyes, it looked primitive and clumsy. They weren't wrong, exactly. This shuttle was basic technology compared to what filled this bay, but it got them where they needed to go. Once inside with the hatch sealed, Giwan finally let her hand shake. She gripped the edge of the console and closed her eyes. 47-0. They mocked us to our faces, Minho said. His voice was flat now, dangerous. Called us children. Called our technology primitive. They're not wrong about our public tech, Guan said. She opened her eyes and looked at him. That's what makes this work. Minho met her gaze. Something passed between them, an understanding built over years of working together. He nodded once. Guan activated the secure communication system, watching the layers of encryption engage. When the green light appeared, she spoke clearly. Director Choi, this is Ambassador Kim. Authorization code Omega-7-7-Alpha. The response came immediately. Confirmed status? They rejected us. 47-0. Additional trade restrictions imposed. There was a pause. Then Director Han Choi's voice came through, and Ji-won could hear the cold satisfaction in it. Then we proceed to Phase 2? Gi-won looked at Minho again. He nodded. Yes, she said. Activate the nullification protocols. The Council has made its choice. Now, we make ours. Understood. 48-hour countdown begins now. Welcome home, Ambassador. When you return to Earth, everything will be different. The communication ended. Ji-won sat down in the pilot's seat and began the departure sequence. The shuttle lifted smoothly, turning toward the vast darkness of space in the long journey back to Earth. Minho took the co-pilot's seat. Do you think any of them suspect? No, Ji-won said. Why would they? To them, we're just angry children throwing a tantrum. They'll forget about this by tomorrow. I'll remember soon enough. Yes, Ji-won agreed. A small, cold smile touched her lips. They will. As the shuttle accelerated away from the Council station, Ji-won thought about all the years of preparation, all the humiliation endured, all the times Earth had bowed and scraped and accepted insults with quiet dignity. The aliens thought it was weakness. They thought humans were just too primitive to understand how outmatched they were. They were wrong, but they would learn. In 48 hours, the entire galaxy would learn that the children playing with fire had been building something in the darkness, something the Council had never imagined, something that would change everything. The stars stretched ahead of them. And Ji-won's smile grew wider. Let them laugh while they still could. The elevator descended 3 kilometers beneath Seoul. Gi-won watched the depth counter tick upward, each number representing another layer of security between the surface world and what lay below. Minho stood beside her, still in his dress uniform, his face carved from stone. Neither of them had slept since leaving the Council station. When the elevator finally stopped and the doors opened, they stepped into a facility that officially didn't exist. The underground command center was vast. It's carved from solid rock and lined with technology that would make the Galactic Council weep if they knew it existed. Hundreds of people worked at stations throughout the massive space, their faces lit by holographic displays. Director Han Choi waited for them at the central command platform. He was a small man in his 60s, with silver hair and eyes that missed nothing. When he saw Gi-won, he smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. Ambassador Kim, Captain Park, welcome home. He gestured at the enormous display behind him, where a map of the galaxy rotated slowly. Hundreds of points glowed across it in different colors. As you can see, we've been busy in the 36 hours since you transmitted the activation code. Guan stepped closer to the display. What am I looking at? Everything, Hyun said simply. Every piece we've put in place over the last 30 years. Every agent. Every backdoor. Every hidden weapon. This is what Earth has really been doing, while the Council laughed at our chemical rockets. He waved his hand and the display changed. Now it showed a timeline stretching back 3 decades. It started after the first time Earth petitioned for basic rights. Do you remember that day, Ambassador? I was there, Gi-won said quietly. I was 23 years old. Fresh out of the diplomatic academy. I watched them laugh at us then too. We all did, Han agreed. And that day, a group of us made a decision. We would never let it happen again. We would make Earth strong, truly strong, but we would do it in secret. We would let the Council believe we were weak. We would play the role they expected. Minha leaned forward. Show us what we have. Hyun's smile widened. He touched the display, and a new section appeared. First, the technology they don't know about. Dr. Yoonji Lee, would you join us? A woman in her 40s approached from one of the research stations. Dr. Yoonji Lee had won the Nobel Prize 15 years ago for her work in quantum physics, but that was just her public face. Her real work had been much more interesting. Ambassador Kim, Captain Park. She greeted them with a slight bow. I assume you want to see the quantum slip drive? The what? Minho asked. Yoonji's eyes lit up with the enthusiasm of a scientist discussing her favorite subject. The Council's fastest ships use what they call fold space engines. They bend space to reduce travel time. It takes them weeks to cross the distance we just traveled in our shuttle. The quantum slip drive doesn't bend space. It skips through it. She pulled up a visualization. We can move from one point to another almost instantaneously. The Council's best ships, they're like horses compared to our jets. They just don't know it yet. Juan felt something cold settle in her stomach. How many ships have this drive? Our entire fleet, Yoonji said calmly. 300 warships, each one capable of appearing anywhere in the galaxy within hours. Dear God, Juan whispered. Oh, we're just getting started, Heian said. He changed the display again. Next, the diplomatic weapon. Do you know how many treaties bind Earth to the Galactic Council? Hundreds, Jiwan replied. She'd spent years studying them. 2,347 to be exact, Hyun corrected. Trade agreements, territorial restrictions, technology sharing protocols, military limitations. All of them carefully designed to keep Earth small and manageable. But here's what the Council doesn't know. The display showed cascading lines of code. For the last 20 years, every treaty we've signed has been digitally recorded in the Council's central database. That database is supposed to be unhackable. It's protected by the best security the greatest minds in the galaxy could create. Paused. We hacked it 12 years ago. Minho's jaw dropped. You've had access to their central database for 12 years? Not just access, Hyun said. We've been planting code. Little pieces of viral programming, each one invisible on its own. But when activated together, they'll do something very simple. They'll delete every treaty, every agreement, every legal document that binds Earth to the Council's authority. That's impossible, Giwan said. The legal chaos alone would be catastrophic for them, Hyun finished. Not for us. We've spent years preparing for exactly this. We know what we're doing. They don't. He brought up another section of the display. This one showed faces. Human faces. Hundreds of them. And finally, our people on the inside. For 30 years, we've been sending our best and brightest to work for alien governments, alien corporations, alien military forces. They think these are just humans seeking opportunities in the wider galaxy. They have no idea these people are all working for us. One face enlarged on the display. A young man with an easy smile. Dehonam. The Verosians think he's a brilliant communications engineer. They've given him access to their entire planetary broadcast network. When the time comes, he'll make sure our message reaches every Verosian citizen. More faces appeared. Sorahan, embedded in the Council's own communication nexus. Bora Yoon, working in the Quellan Military Logistics Division. Taeyang Cho, trusted advisor to the Grenthian ambassador. We have people everywhere, and they're all waiting for the signal. Jiwan looked at Heen, really looked at him, and saw the man who had spent 30 years building this moment. You've been planning this since the beginning. Since before the beginning, Hyun confirmed. We knew the Council would reject you today. We've been counting on it. Every insult they threw at you, every time they called us children, they were sealing their own fate. Admiral Junho Kong emerged from another section of the facility. He was a tall man with iron-gray hair and the bearing of someone who'd spent his life in military service. Ambassador Kim, the fleet is ready. We've been moving ships into position for the last month, using civilian flight paths to avoid suspicion. When the nullification protocols activate, we'll have vessels in every strategic location in Council space. Without them noticing? Minho asked skeptically. Our quantum slip drives leave no trace, Junho said. As far as Council sensors are concerned, space is empty. They won't know we're there until we want them to know. Giwan felt dizzy. The scope of what she was seeing, what humanity had built in secret, was almost too much to comprehend. When does this start? Hyun checked his display. In 46 hours and 17 minutes, every treaty dissolves simultaneously. Every embedded agent activates. Every hidden ship reveals itself. The Council will wake up to find that the galaxy has changed overnight, and there's nothing they can do about it. "We'll fight," Minho said. "Let them try." Gunho replied coldly. "They'll find that their weapons can't lock onto ships they can't detect, and their fleets can't chase vessels that can appear and disappear at will. This won't be a war, Captain. It will be a demonstration." Guan turned back to the galactic display, watching all those glowing points pulse in rhythm. 30 years of preparation. 30 years of humiliation endured with quiet patience. 30 years of letting the Council believe humanity was weak. "They're going to panic," she said softly. Good Hyan replied. "Fear will make them reasonable. We don't want to destroy the Council, Ambassador. We just want them to understand that Earth is not a child to be patronized. We are their equals, whether they like it or not." Giwan thought about the Sesla Efter echoing in the Council chamber. She thought about all the times Earth had been dismissed, ignored, and insulted. She thought about the new trade restrictions they'd just imposed. As if humanity needed to be punished for having the audacity to ask for basic rights. 46 hours, she said. 46 hours, Hien confirmed. And then we remind the galaxy what happens when you underestimate humanity. Dehonam sat in his apartment on the Verosian homeworld, watching the clock count down the final minutes. Outside his window, the metallic towers of the capital city gleamed under 3 setting suns. To anyone watching, he was just another human engineer, grateful for the opportunity to work on advanced alien technology. No one suspected that every system he'd helped build over the last 8 years had a backdoor only he could access. His communicator vibrated. A single message appeared. "The fire rises." I smiled. It was time. Across the galaxy, on 40 different worlds, hundreds of humans received the same message. In the Council's central database station, Sorahan looked at her screen and felt her heart race. She was alone in the communication nexus at this hour, which was exactly according to plan. Her fingers moved across the holographic controls, entering codes she'd memorized years ago. In Earth's underground command center, Giwan Kim stood at the central platform with Director Hyun and Admiral Junho. The massive display before them showed the entire galaxy, with each embedded agent represented by a glowing point. At exactly midnight Universal Time, those points would all activate simultaneously. 30 seconds, Heian said quietly. Guan's hands gripped the railing. Minho stood beside her, his face calm but his eyes intense. Around them, every person in the facility had stopped their work to watch. 20 seconds. On the Verosian homeworld, Daeho's fingers flew across his personal terminal. He was accessing the planetary broadcast network, the same network he'd spent years maintaining and improving. The Verosians trusted him completely. Why wouldn't they? He was just a human, grateful for their generosity in employing him. 10 seconds. Sorahan took a deep breath. The viral code was ready, hidden in plain sight within the Council's own security systems. One command would release it. One command would change everything. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Execute, Guan said. The galaxy exploded with activity in the Council's central database. Sora's code activated like a digital plague. It spread through the system in microseconds, finding every treaty, every agreement, every legal document that bound Earth to the Council's authority. 2,347 documents, representing centuries of carefully crafted restrictions on humanity. They all vanished, not just deleted, erased from existence. Every backup, every copy, every reference. The Council's legal framework regarding Earth simply ceased to exist in their records. Alarms started screaming in the database facility. Sora watched them flash red across every screen, and she felt a surge of satisfaction. By the time they figured out what happened, she would be gone. By the time they thought to look for her, Earth's ships would already be in position. On the Verosian homeworld, Deho activated the broadcast he'd prepared. Every screen, every communication device, every public display in the Verosian capital suddenly showed the same image. Juan Kim, sitting in the underground command center, speaking directly to the citizens of 47 alien worlds. People of the Galactic Council, Juan's voice was calm, clear, and absolutely cold. For 30 years, Earth has been a member of your council. We have followed your rules. We have honored your treaties. We have endured your mockery and your restrictions with patience and dignity. Today, that ends. In government buildings across 40 alien worlds, officials were being woken by frantic aides. Something was happening. Something impossible. The humans were broadcasting on secure channels. The humans had somehow accessed systems that were supposed to be unhackable. As of this moment, Jiwan continued, Earth recognizes no treaty, no agreement, and no authority but its own. Every legal document that bound us to your council has been nullified. We are no longer bound by your restrictions on our military, our technology, or our expansion into space. On dozens of worlds, alien leaders were gathering in emergency meetings, demanding to know how this was possible. Their legal experts were discovering the horrifying truth. The treaties were gone. All of them. There was no legal framework governing Earth's relationship with the Council. As far as galactic law was concerned, Earth was now a completely independent entity, with no obligations to anyone. You called us children playing with fire, Jiwan said. And now, her voice carried an edge sharp enough to cut metal. You were wrong. We weren't playing. We were learning. While you laughed at our chemical rockets, we were building something you never imagined. While you mocked our primitive technology, we were surpassing you in ways you don't yet understand. In the council chamber, High Arbiter Quendel was convening an emergency session. Representatives were appearing on their platforms, some still in their sleeping equivalents, all of them demanding answers. How had the humans done this? How had they accessed the central database? How had they compromised communications across 47 different worlds? This platform lit up, his metallic form practically vibrating with rage. This is an act of war. The humans must be, his words cut off as every display in the council chamber changed to show Jiwan's face. You cannot stop this broadcast, she said, looking directly at them. You cannot shut down this transmission. Your systems belong to us now, just as much as they belong to you. We have been inside your networks for 12 years. We have had access to your secrets, your communications, your military protocols, and you never knew. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Accusations flew. How could this have happened? Who had failed in their security duties? But beneath the anger, Giwan could see something else in their faces. Their sensory organs, their various methods of expressing emotion, fear. We do not seek war, Giwan continued. We seek recognition. We seek the respect that you have denied us. Earth will now claim territories under no legal framework, because you have taught us that in this galaxy, power is the only law that matters. Admiral Junho was watching tactical displays at another station. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy. Human ships were appearing in neutral zones, unclaimed territories, strategic locations. They were using the quantum slip drives, materializing from nothing. Their weapon systems active, but not firing. The alien militaries were scrambling, but they were too slow. By the time they mobilized, humans were already where they wanted to be. 47 worlds received our message, Hune reported. All embedded agents have activated. Council communication systems are in chaos. They're trying to coordinate a response, but we're disrupting their signals. Giwan watched the tactical display as more green points appeared, each one representing a human ship taking position. It was like watching pieces on a game board moving into checkmate. On the Verosian homeworld, Deho was packing his few possessions. A human transport would arrive within the hour to extract him and 24 other embedded agents. The Verosians would eventually figure out who he was, but by then it wouldn't matter. The damage was done. He took one last look at the city he'd called home for 8 years. In a way, he'd miss it, but not enough to regret what he'd just done. In the council chamber, the aliens were finally achieving something like organized thought. They would send their fleets to Earth. They would force humanity back into compliance. They would show these upstart primitives what happened when you defied the council. Quendel was trying to restore order, his crystalline form pulsing with effort. We must respond with overwhelming force. The humans must be made to understand. Understand what? Giwan's voice cut through the chaos. She was still broadcasting, still speaking directly to them. That you have the power to punish us? Then come. Send your fleets to Earth. We're waiting. The transmission ended in the underground command center. Giwan allowed herself a small smile. The countdown was over. The protocols were active. Earth had just torn up every rule the galaxy had tried to impose on humanity. Now came the interesting part. How long until the Council fleet reaches Earth? She asked. For days, Junho replied. They'll gather forces from multiple systems. It will be the largest military force assembled in a century, Gudguan said. Let them come. Minho looked at her. You want them to attack? I want them to see what we've become, Juan replied. I want them to understand, finally and completely, that humanity is no longer something they can control. Hyun nodded slowly. Phase 3 begins when they arrive. Phase 3, Gi Wan confirmed. She looked at the display, at all the green points representing human powers spread across the galaxy. 30 years of preparation. 30 years of planning. 30 years of letting the Council believe they were in control. That illusion was about to shatter. The Council fleet arrived at Earth's solar system exactly 4 days after the nullification. It was massive. 300 warships from 15 different alien civilizations, representing the combined military might of species that had ruled space for thousands of years. Their weapons could shatter planets. Their shields could withstand the heat of stars. They came to remind humanity of its place. Admiral Junho Kang watched them approach on the tactical display in Earth's orbital command station. Beside him, Captain Minho Park studied the alien formations with professional interest. Their broadcasting demands, a communications officer reported. They want Earth to surrender immediately and submit to Council authority. Ignore them, Junho said calmly. Let them get closer. The alien fleet was being led by Vextra himself, commanding from his flagship, a massive Verosian dreadnought that gleamed like liquid mercury. He had volunteered to lead this punitive expedition personally. The humans had humiliated him in the council chamber. Now he would show them what happened when you mocked the Verosian Empire. His tactical officer, younger Verosian, studied the sensor readings with confusion. Commander, I'm not detecting any defensive perimeter. No ships. No orbital weapons platforms. Nothing. They're hiding, Nextra said confidently. Trying to ambush us with their primitive tactics. Maintain formation, and prepare to bombard their orbital stations. On Earth, Jiwon Kim stood in the underground command center, watching the same tactical display that Junho was seeing. Director Haeon stood beside her, his expression unreadable. They really think they can just bombard us into submission, Kwon said quietly. They've never faced real opposition, Hyun replied. They've ruled this galaxy for so long they've forgotten what it means to be challenged. How long until they're in optimal position? Giwan asked. Hyun checked his console. 2 minutes. All defensive systems are ready. All ships are in position. Giwan nodded. Then let's show them what Earth has built. In orbit around Earth, space itself began to shimmer. The alien fleet's sensors suddenly screamed warnings as energy signatures appeared from nothing. Hundreds of them. All around their formation, Vexra stared at his tactical display in disbelief. Where there had been empty space moments ago, there were now human warships. They hadn't been detected approaching. They hadn't traveled through normal space. They had simply appeared, materializing out of nothing like ghosts. It's impossible, he whispered. His tactical officer's voice was shaking. Commander, I count 200 human vessels. They're surrounding us. They just appeared. Minho Park stood on the bridge of the Earth flagship, the vessel that officially didn't exist in any public records. Around him, his crew worked with efficient precision. They had trained for this moment for years. All ships. This is Captain Park. He transmitted on the human fleet channel. Activate defensive perimeter. Do not fire unless fired upon. This is a demonstration, not a massacre. On Next Rest Bridge, alarms were blaring. The human ships were activating weapon systems, but these weren't the chemical rockets or primitive lasers the Council had expected. Energy readings were off the scale. Whatever the humans had developed, it was far beyond anything in the Council's arsenal. Target the nearest human ship, Zexra ordered. His pride wouldn't let him retreat, even though every instinct screamed danger. Fire. The Varosian dreadnought's main weapons unleashed a barrage of plasma fire that could melt through a moon. The targeted human ship simply flickered out of existence. The plasma passed through empty space and dissipated harmlessly. A moment later, the human ship reappeared behind the dreadnought. Target lock impossible, the tactical officer reported, his voice breaking. They're moving through space in ways our sensors can't track. They're not bending space. They're not using wormholes. They're just skipping, appearing and disappearing. Extra watched in growing horror as human ships demonstrated capabilities that violated everything he understood about physics. They moved without acceleration. They appeared in multiple locations simultaneously. They phased through obstacles as if reality itself was optional, from the human flagship. Minho's voice came over an open channel that every ship in both fleets could hear. Council forces, you have fired on Earth vessels. We are well within our rights to respond with lethal force. However, we choose to demonstrate restraint. The screens lit up as targeting locks from 200 human ships fixed on his fleet. Every alien vessel was marked. Every weapon system was targeted. You have 5 seconds to stand down, Minho continued. If you do not, we will disable every ship in your fleet without destroying them. We will leave you alive, but helpless, floating in Earth's orbit as a monument to your arrogance. He's bluffing, Thetra said, but his voice lacked conviction. They can't possibly, the human ships fired. What happened next would be analyzed by military strategists for generations. The human weapons were unlike anything seen before. They were directed energy beams that didn't just impact their targets. They reached inside them. They found every weapon system, every shield generator, every engine component, and shut them down with surgical precision. In less than 3 seconds, 300 alien warships became 300 floating holes. Their crews were alive and unharmed. Their life support still functioned, but every weapon system, every engine, every defensive measure was simply gone. Not destroyed, disabled, turned off at a fundamental level. The Council fleet was helpless. Dexra sat in his command chair, staring at displays that showed nothing but failure. Every system was offline. His ship, his pride, the symbol of Varosian military might, was now just a dead weight in space. G1's face appeared on every working screen in the alien fleet. She was broadcasting directly to them, and this time there was no mistaking the power behind her calm voice. You came to punish us, she said. You came to remind us of our place. Instead, you have learned your own. Earth is not a child to be disciplined. Earth is not a primitive species to be managed. We are your equals, and you will treat us as such. From Earth's orbit, the human fleet maintained their formations around the disabled alien ships. Admiral Junho was receiving status reports from all vessels. No casualties on either side, a tactical officer reported. All enemy ships disabled as planned. Rescue shuttles are standing by if any alien crew needs assistance. Good, Junho said. We're not here to kill them. We're here to teach them. On the command deck, President Taiwan Shin materialized on the main holographic display. He was a stocky man in his late 50s, with silver hair and the bearing of someone who had led Earth through difficult times. Now he would address the Council directly. High Arbiter Quendel counselors, representatives of 47 worlds, he began. His voice was transmitted across every communication channel in the galaxy. You are watching your fleet float helplessly in Earth's orbit. You are seeing 300 warships disabled without a single casualty. This is not war. This is education. In the council chamber, reconvened in emergency session, The aliens watched in stunned silence. They had sent their greatest military force to crush humanity. That force had lasted 3 seconds against human technology. For 30 years, you have treated humanity as inferior, President Shin continued. You laughed at our chemical rockets while we developed drives that make your fold space engines look like ancient history. You mocked our primitive weapons while we created energy systems that can reach inside your ships and turn them off like light switches. You called us children playing with fire. The display behind him changed to show technical schematics. Alien experts in the council chamber gasped as they recognized what they were seeing. This was technology decades, perhaps centuries ahead of their own. We learned to harness the stars, President Shin said quietly. And we learned to do it in secret, because we knew you would never take us seriously otherwise. We learned that in this galaxy, respect is not given. It is taken. This platform in the council chamber activated. His holographic form appeared, transmitted from his disabled ship. He looked broken. How? He asked simply. How did you do this? By being underestimated, Juan said, appearing beside President Shin on the broadcast. By letting you believe we were weak. By enduring your mockery while we worked in the darkness. You thought we were children. You were wrong. We were students, and you were our teachers. You've taught us that power is the only currency that matters in this galaxy. We learned that lesson well. President Shin raised his hand, and the display changed again. This time it showed Earth's true fleet strength, the hidden ships, the secret bases, the technological advantages. It was overwhelming. Earth offers the Council a choice, he said. We can destroy the treaties that bind all of us and descend into chaos. Or we can write new treaties based on mutual respect between equals. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We just want to be treated as equals within it. To the council chamber. Quendal's crystalline form pulsed with something that might have been resignation. What are your terms? Simple, Giwan replied. Earth receives full rights as a council member. No restrictions. No limitations. No special rules. We are granted the same privileges as every other species. In return, we will release your fleet unharmed and share some of our technology to improve the council as a whole. And if we refuse? Quendal asked. 6 months had passed since the day the galaxy changed. The council chamber looked the same from the outside. Still, that massive crystalline structure orbiting Viridian Prime. But inside, everything was different. Jiwon Kim walked through corridors that had once echoed with mockery, heading toward a meeting that would have been impossible just half a year ago. She wore the same dark suit, carried herself with the same calm dignity. But now when aliens passed her in the hallways, they bowed. Some with respect, some with fear, all with recognition. She was no longer just an ambassador. Earth had created a new position for her, one that reflected humanity's new role in galactic affairs. Galactic mediator. First, among equals. The person who spoke for Earth. When Earth needed to remind the galaxy of its power, the new council chamber retained its 47 platforms. But Earth's platform was no longer in the back. It stood at the center, equal with the other founding species. Around it, the architectural redesign made a statement. No one stood above anyone else. No one looked down on their neighbors. Director Heian was waiting for her near Earth's platform. He looked tired but satisfied. Managing the transition from secret power to acknowledged power had been exhausting work. The Quellan delegation is here to discuss technology sharing, he reported. The Grenthians want to renegotiate trade agreements. And this, Isa has requested a private meeting with you. Guan raised an eyebrow. Dexera wants to meet with me. Personally requested it. He's waiting in conference room 7. Jiwan considered that. The Varosian, who had led the charge to humiliate Earth, who had laughed at humanity's chemical rockets, who had commanded the fleet that came to punish them. That Dexera wanted to speak with her privately. Let's not keep him waiting, she said. Conference room 7 was smaller than the main chamber, designed for private negotiations. Visra stood near the window, his metallic form reflecting the light of distant stars. When Jiwan entered, he turned to face her. For a long moment, neither spoke. Ambassador Kim Nexra finally said. His voice, once so full of arrogant amusement, now carried something else. Something that might have been shame. Thank you for meeting with me. Mediator Kim now, Jiwan corrected gently. Earth has expanded my role, of course. As form shifted, a Verosian gesture of acknowledgement. I have come to make a request. Or perhaps to beg. Giwan sat down at the conference table, gesturing for him to do the same. He settled into the chair designed for his species, his liquid metal body conforming to its shape. The Verosian Empire is failing, he said bluntly. Our economy has collapsed. Our technology, which we thought so advanced, is now generations behind yours. Other species are canceling treaties with us, seeking Earth as a partner instead. We are becoming irrelevant. And you want Earth's help, Jiwan said. It wasn't a question. I want mercy, Dexter replied. I was the one who mocked you most viciously in this very chamber. I led the fleet that came to punish your insolence. I have earned whatever retribution you wish to deliver. But my people, they followed my lead. They trusted my judgment. They should not suffer because I was blind. Giwan studied him carefully. She could destroy the Verosian Empire with a word. Earth held that power now. One trade embargo, one technology restriction, and the proud Verosians would fade into insignificance. Do you understand why we did what we did? She asked instead. Dextra was quiet for a moment. I believe so. We treated you as inferiors because we believed you were inferior. We never imagined that a species could advance so quickly, or that you would have the patience to endure our condescension while you surpassed us. It was masterful, and it was terrifying. It wasn't about revenge, Guan said. It was about respect. Earth didn't want to rule the galaxy. We just wanted to be seen as equals. And now you are more than equals, Bexer said. You are the dominant power. Every species looks to Earth now. The question is what you will do with that power. Giwan leaned back in her chair. She thought about that day 6 months ago, standing at Earth's platform while the council laughed. She thought about the 30 years of preparation, the humiliation endured, the careful planning. Earth will help the Verosian Empire, she said finally. We will share some of our technology. We will establish fair trade agreements. We will ensure your people have a stable future. This metallic form seemed to ripple with surprise. Why? Because you were right about one thing, Joanne said. Your people followed your lead. They trusted your judgment. They don't deserve to suffer because their leaders made mistakes. And because Earth remembers what it was like to be dismissed and humiliated, we won't do that to others. She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. Besides, we need you. We need all of you. Earth didn't become powerful by ourselves. We learned from everyone. Verosian engineering, Quellan mathematics, Granthian physics. We took the best of what the galaxy had to offer and built something new. Why would we throw that away now? Vex rejoined her at the window. The council feared you would become tyrants. We might have, G1 admitted. Power corrupts. We know that. But we also know something else. Humanity's strength has always been our ability to adapt, to learn, to change. The galaxy taught us that lesson. We won't forget it. They stood in silence for a moment, looking at the stars together. Once enemies, now something else. Not quite friends, but perhaps the beginning of understanding. There is one condition, Juan said. Name it. Tell your people what happened. All of it. How you underestimated us. How you mocked us. How it cost you. Let it be a lesson that spreads across the galaxy. Never judge a species by what they appear to be. Judge them by what they might become. This form shifted, and what Juan had learned was a gesture of agreement. It will be done. The Verosians will remember this lesson. I will make certain of it. After the Extra left, Giwan returned to the main council chamber. The session was about to begin, and today's agenda was significant. A new species was applying for council membership, the Kelthians, young civilization that had just achieved faster-than-light travel. High Arbiter Quendel called the session to order. The Kelthian representative, a small being with crystalline skin, stood nervously at the applicant's platform. G1 watched as the various council members examined the Kelthians' application. Their technology assessments, their cultural profiles. She saw some of the older species exchange glances. The Kelthians were primitive by galactic standards. Their ships were slow. Their weapons were basic. Some council members were already preparing dismissive comments. G1 activated her platform's communication system. "I would like to speak to the application." The chamber fell silent. When Earth's galactic mediator spoke, everyone listened now. "The Kelthians are technologically behind the council average," G1 said. "This is true. But I asked the council to remember something. 6 months ago, you looked at humanity and saw a primitive species playing with chemical rockets. You saw children who needed to be managed and controlled." She paused, letting that sink in. "We're wrong. You judged us by our current state instead of our potential. You created an enemy through your arrogance when you could have had an ally. I suggest we do not make that mistake again." The Kelthian representative looked up at G1 with something like hope in its crystalline eyes. "Earth votes to approve the Kelthian application," G1 continued. "Furthermore, we offer to share some of our technology to help them catch up to council standards. Not because we want to control them, but because we remember what it was like to be the newcomers in a galaxy that saw us as lesser." One by one, other platforms lit up with approval. The Kelthians were accepted unanimously. After the session, Dr. Yoonji Lee found Juan in one of the observation lounges. The scientist looked happy, which wasn't her usual expression. "The technology sharing agreements are working better than expected," Yanji reported. "We've established joint research facilities with 7 species. The Quellan mathematical approach combined with our quantum slip principles is producing fascinating results. We might be looking at an entirely new form of space travel within a decade." "That's excellent," G1 said. "What about the defensive technology?" Yoonji's expression became more serious. "We're keeping the most advanced weapon systems classified for now. But we've shared enough defensive technology to help the other species protect themselves. No one will be helpless again." "Good. The goal was never to be the only powerful species. It was to ensure everyone treated each other with respect." Captain Minho Park joined them, carrying a datapad. "The fleet reports are in. We've established patrol patterns that cover the major trade routes. Piracy has dropped by 80%. Several species have requested Earth ships to help protect their borders. We're becoming the galaxy's peacekeepers," Giwan observed. "Is that a bad thing?" Minho asked. "Only if we let it go to our heads," Giwan replied. "We need to remember that we're not superior to anyone. We just had better timing and more patience." Director Heian appeared on the observation lounge's communication screen. "Mediator Kim, I have the latest updates from the embedded agent extraction program. All of our people are safely back on Earth or in positions they've chosen to remain in voluntarily. What about Dae Honam? He's teaching at the new diplomatic academy.